about 95% of all of today's breaches or infections involve human error. You really have to educate your people in order to avoid me becoming a victim.
Hello, everyone. This is Todd Nielsen with the CISOHotline.com podcast. And it's my pleasure today to have as our guest Earl Foote, who is the CEO at Nexus IT Consultants based in Park City, Utah. And Earl has been providing cybersecurity, cloud, IT, and compliance solutions through Nexus for, it's been about 21 years now, believe it or not. And he is obviously a well-respected executive as well as an IT professional. And we're really lucky to have him on our podcast. Thanks for joining us, Earl. Appreciate your time you take to be here.
Hey, Todd, it's my pleasure, an honor, actually. Thank you so much for the invitation. And an introduction that I'm not deserving of, but thanks.
Well, I can't attempt to do it justice. I was just looking at your profile. It's been almost 21 years, huh? Yeah,
exactly. In fact, September this year, we will hit 21 years in business.
Absolutely cool. So I know I've met some of your team members and the folks that work with you and for you, and they're all stellar professionals. So it's I'm sure you could ring their bell as well. They seem to be some excellent folks that you have on your team as well.
Yeah, Todd, we really worked hard for a long time to build a really awesome team, and they really are. I'm just great individuals, stand-up people, and awesome professionals who are really good at what they do. Some of them are probably more qualified to be on this call than myself. So,
fair enough. And as same thing goes here. So, as part of how the CSO hotline comes in, it's we want to ask you questions and provide some insights to those that are listening. And so I'll just jump right in some of those questions that I have for you. But I know a lot of times you and I both get asked, I'm sure, especially from CISOs and CIOs, how do I really understand my risk? Where do I get started when it comes to cybersecurity? And the biggest thing we deal with, right, is budgets. And so if you, Earl, were asked, or if you have for Nexus, if you had only money for one security project in a year, what would you do? What would you be, or what would you recommend to do?
Yeah, really good question. And certainly that's a tough one, right? To boil it down to what the highest priority is. But given that we do this, kind of day in and day out, I think I have a pretty good idea of what I would do and what I would recommend. And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to choose two items. I know you said one, but the latter one is really quite inexpensive, and so I think you could fit it into most any budget. And that's number one. I would make sure that my edge defense and my endpoint defense, so my firewalls and my anti-malware, antivirus software on my endpoints are next generation technologies that are using either behavior analysis or AI to analyze traffic and packets and behavior. That would be the first thing I would do. And second would be to implement some sort of employee cybersecurity education program. Given that, I think different studies show different numbers, but generally I think the consensus is about 95% of all of today's breaches or infections involve human error. You really have to educate your people in order to avoid me becoming a victim, to what's out there today.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And you didn't have to cheat on the two, because I think I agree with the number one being visibility, excellent choice. But as well as I do, you could actually, especially for small firms, do employee awareness training for no cost, right? For no additional cost. You
Sure.
Can get out there and get your guys in a lunch and learn for a room and start teaching about security. So hey, still
do it in house. Do it in house.
Yeah.
Or there's programs that are like $30 a year per user. Like, no brainers.
Yeah, it's absolutely budget friendly when it comes to training. So and high return when it comes to lowering that risk posture for sure.
Totally.
So I have a personal question for you, because podcast you just want to know who Earl is. So if you have $10 million in the bank, you have $10 million to do something, either personally or cyber, you decide, what would you do with it?
Sure. I guess because you've asked, first on a personal level, first of all, I'm a bit of a minimalist. So Yeah, but I've had for a long time a dream to just kind of take 18 to 24 months off and
Mm,
backpack the world, just go see every nook and cranny of the world that my heart desires. Maybe not even have much of a plan, just get on a plane and figure it out from there, right?
hmm.
Um, and so that's probably one of the first things I would do. I'd pay off any debt that I have. I'd probably buy a couple of investment properties, and then I would figure out a way to make a meaningful impact with the rest and give back somewhere, in our community or world with the rest of it.
Excellent. I think the first one I heard, who Anthony Bourdain was?
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
And, I remember watching one of his shows, and one of his things was, he said, travel is the cure for ignorance.
Totally.
And, and I can agree with that. I mean, I know you're a sucker for education, right? You already mentioned about educating training, but I know that you like to learn new things. So
I do. I really, really do. Yeah.
and so that travel desire, if you had the 10 million bucks, perfect, right? I think it's also about education, personal education, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing like experiencing other cultures and countries and places in the world to expand your worldview and really, just get you outside your box and learn new things. I mean, it's really something that I love more than a lot of other things that I do in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. What I've been studying a little bit over the last few months or so about how new millennials work, how the new economy is working, freelancers and gig work, and those, how millennials want to work. And what I found interesting is that, and you're probably no exception to this, a lot of executives and people today, and they're growing up in the entrepreneurial community at least, do two or three, four things. I mean, for instance, you look at Elon Musk, right? How many companies does he own? You look at Jack and with with Twitter and all the things that he does at the same time.
Right.
So that's really kind of the new paradigm. Multiple things, I'm sure you do. So, but if you had the second thing or third thing in your life, but you only had 5 hours a week to work on it, what would you do with it?
On a personal level, I have a project called Elevate International, which
Mm,
takes leaders, entrepreneurs, executives to exotic locations. Has really amazing retreats with them and their teams, if teams and or families if they choose. But the primary purpose is to do humanitarian service with at-risk kids and teach them winning mindsets, winning ideas, and help them maybe get out of a pattern and become who they want to be and realize their dreams. So that's where I would spend more time.
Oh, that sounds like a great cause. And it sounds like probably as much fun for you that it is it is for them. So,
Oh yeah, it's a really, really awesome, amazing experience, and something that I really enjoy being involved with.
interesting. So I also, a part of that discovery that I've been having, I heard a concept about, a lot of people, when you try to solve problems, especially in cybersecurity, we try to add things, add a firewall, add endpoint controls, add whatever it may be. What would, if you could only solve problems by subtracting things, taking things out, what, spend less time or use less something or else, how do you think you would do that?
Yeah, this is the question that's totally counterintuitive, right? Because
Yep.
the cyber threat landscape just continues to evolve, and there's more and more potential risk and more attack vectors, and so we continue to just add more and more solutions, right? To try and keep our organization safe. For me, I think looking at a really robust cloud strategy that would take a lot of the technology and the risk for the security off your plate is simplifying it, and oftentimes it can be a cost saving. So I think that's a potential for a potential solution to that question there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So subtract the internal data center,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, good idea.
Get
I hadn't
IT
heard
get
that one
IT off
before.
your plate as much as you possibly can, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You're not. Most businesses are not in the business to be in the business of IT, right? So don't
right.
be. Get IT off your plate. Find one or two or three really amazing vendors who can take over the majority of it for you, and de-risk your organization in the process, and put the onus and the responsibility for the security on their plates.
Yeah, because it's possible today, right? I mean, a decade ago, it wasn't even you didn't have that option. Today, you can pretty much outsource any need you have with regard to IT and other things that simply don't make sense for your business. If you're a hospital, why are you in the data center business, right? Yeah,
Totally.
that makes sense.
Yep.
So what was the last book you read then? And what's the next one you're going to read?
Yeah, the most recent one that I've read, which I really, really enjoyed, and I would recommend to anybody, is Winner's Dream by Bill McDermott. And the one that I've just recently started is Traction by Gino Wickman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are both nonfiction books, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. I primarily only read, leadership, personal, professional development, business, development type of books.
I find that as a trend for IT, especially executives, C-level executives in general, and IT as well. But a lot of, for me, if I want to read a fiction book, I almost feel like I'm wasting my time. I should be doing something else, not wasting my time. I feel like, man, I should be learning. I shouldn't be reading a murder mystery or something,
Yeah.
It's guilty.
As entertaining as it is, and there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. It's just,
Sure.
I only have so many hours in the day. I consistently am trying to innovate and create new ideas and improve upon who I am as a leader and as an entrepreneur. And for me to do that, I invest the time I have to listen to or read books into stuff that's going to help me do that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, if you create security programs for your clients, of course, and as well as IT programs. Now, if you were to create a security program for a small to mid-sized business, and you need to make it easy for them and easy for you, what would it look like? What would an easy security program look like?
Yeah. Here's another
Or
one.
Is there one?
Yeah. Another question that seems counterintuitive, because security just keeps getting more and more complicated, it seems. And so I don't know that I have a really good answer to that, and I don't want to be redundant, but I think that it's gotta include making sure that everybody in your organization is aware of what your vulnerabilities and risks are and how to avoid those, and that you're implementing, at least the base technologies that are going to help keep you safe as well. And you actually have a strategic plan, and you're continually assessing and readjusting that. I think that's
right.
My approach.
Okay, excellent. And so even if it is complex, which of course it is, and getting more so, as you pointed out, how do you quantify that it's successful? If you created a security program, when do you know it's successful, or do you?
Yeah. I think for me, there's three things there, or a couple things anyways. Number one is, I think the ultimate measure of success in a security initiative or program is that you are not getting infections and you're not getting breached, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the ultimate things. But because, as I mentioned at the top of the call, I mean, about 95% of all infections and breaches now involve human error. I think that measuring success also, you have to look at and measure the current awareness of your human capital when it comes to your vulnerabilities, and make sure that that everybody is on board with what it takes to keep your organization safe.
Yes, perfect. That's good. I agree with you. If both of us, we have to, I know that you have a fairly good sized network and you like to do networking and quite a bit with other IT professionals. And you obviously already talked about, your initiative that you have with executives. But if you wanted to have a very influential, very successful person give you a break, just be a mentor or give you a break, who would that be, and for what reason?
Yeah. For me, I think just because I've recently read Bill McDermott's book, and I really just kind of dug his philosophies, his personality, his book, his leadership style. I would love for, Bill McDermott, the CEO of SAP, to come take over my position and give me that 18 months to 18 to 24 months to go travel the world. That would be what I'd do with it at the
cool.
time. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yep. And have you thought about that? Because as you know, I had my own companies and started my own companies as well. And you get to a point sometimes, and you have obviously an unbelievable longevity in this industry with your company. Has there been a temptation to do something like that, to put a CEO in charge? Because I know you're a technical expert. So, put a CEO in charge and let them do that, and you go do what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I am, if I'm 100%, open, I mean, I think as a leader, I probably fit the CTO, CIO, CISO model better than I do a CEO model. As an entrepreneur who has started up a business, and has done so without any major infusions of capital, you end up taking on all the roles and wearing all the hats, basically, right? And so many times I've thought about, is it time to bring in somebody who's more experienced as a CEO to run the organization. To this point, really, the decision has been one: the budget would be extremely difficult to allocate for it,
Right.
And therefore I need to develop myself into that role, which I think that I've done a reasonably successful job at. I know that there's people who can do significantly better than me, and are certainly more qualified than myself to do it. But that's been my strategy to this point.
Right.
And yeah, I've had a long time, in this career and in this organization, and I intend to continue forward with it to this point. But certainly, in the coming years, I may entertain that far more seriously.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, it stretches you, but in a good way. So that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a testament to the longevity you've had to your success. So that's the easy measure of success. But whether you believe it or not, it's sure to the outside world, and has shown that success is happening with the role that you're in today. So with the kind of to wrap up here, give some advice to those junior folks out there that either getting into cybersecurity or starting their own cyber business or starting their own IT management firm or consulting firm like you have. What would someone do or should focus on? What to learn in the business to really improve as much as possible, to grow it as fast as they can, and really do it right? What advice would you give someone to focus on if they were starting a company now?
Good question. And my response may be somewhat unorthodox because it's really not going to be technology related. As a budding entrepreneur 21 years ago, when I started my technology company, I had no idea how to run a business. I didn't study business. I really, just had no idea how to run a business. So my first recommendation for any entrepreneur is to develop yourself personally and professionally. Attend conferences and mastermind groups and read books and go to workshops. And if you want to go get a degree, get a degree. And similarly, learn marketing and sales. Attend courses and learn how to market your organization and sell it. Particularly as a younger entrepreneur or starting out a business, you have to sell. You are the salesperson, and you may have to sell angels or venture capitalists on giving you money to start the company, and then you've got to sell the product or service. So for me, learn marketing and sales, and then develop yourself as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and then you can start worrying more about some of the technical aspects. But that would be my recommendation.
That's excellent. I've seen it, and I'm sure you have too, where a technical individual, expert, great person can really turn the wrenches and get things done in cyber. But when it comes to selling, like you said, and entrepreneurship, they figure they can go out on their own because they are an expert. Selling is a skill. A lot of people may not think that it really is. You can be expert at everything, but if nobody knows about it, not so good. You're not going to go very far. So I really appreciate that. And as my dad said, to me all the time, invest in yourself first. And because you can always bet on yourself. So that rings true with me as well. I know that we're running up to our time. We're on our podcast. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Absolute wonderful insights. And I wish you best of luck with Nexus and all the things that you do.
Thanks so much, Todd. This has really been fun. I do appreciate the invitation. And likewise, I wish you guys the absolute best with your venture. And we'll be in contact soon.
Sounds good. Wonderful. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.